Notice in Nehemiah chapter 4, beginning with verse 6, so we built the wall, and the entire wall was joined together up to half its height, for the people had a mind to work. Isn't it something that right when you get half finished, here comes the devil. You're halfway into it. You got too much invested to turn around and walk away from it. Right when you get halfway, there's something about the halfway mark where we come into huge change. It happens with individuals in their 40s and 50s where we go through what's called the midlife crisis. See, of course, I know some people that like in their 30s that have a midlife crisis. But there's something about it. Something happens where it begins to change in us right as soon as we've gotten in the middle of it. We've come too far to run back, and we are still too far away from the other side to get on over there. So we have our crisis in the middle. It's in the middle of life that we go through things that begin to perplex us and change us and cause us to wonder who we are and to begin to act sometimes out of character. And so notice, as soon as it was halfway, because the people had a mind to work, now it happened when it was halfway that Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were being restored and the gaps were beginning to be closed, and that they became very angry. And all of them conspired together to come and attack Jerusalem and create confusions. Nevertheless, we made our prayer to our God, and because of them, we set a watch against them day and night. And then Judah said, the strength of the laborers is failing, and there is so much rubbish that we are not able to build a wall. And our adversaries said that they will neither know nor see anything till we come into their midst and kill them and cause the work to cease. And so it was that when the Jews who dwelt near them came, that they told us 10 times, from whatever place you turn, they will be upon us. And therefore I positioned men behind the lower parts of the wall, at the openings, and I set the people according to their families, with their swords, their spears, and their bows. And I looked and arose and said to the nobles, to the leaders, and to the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord great and awesome, and fight for your daughters, fight for your wives, fight for your houses. And it happened that when the enemies heard that it was known to us and that God had brought their plot to nothing, that all of us returned to the wall, everyone to his work. So we want to find out, what is it that I need to learn from history that is speaking to me today that will help me to overcome the challenges in my own personal life? Because I'm going to have obstacles. Whenever you try to live your dream, you're going to have obstacles. Whenever you try to build a business, build a family, you're going to have obstacles. There will be things that will oppose you, even when you're doing a good work. Particularly when you are doing a God work, you will find demonic and satanic opposition. You can think that because it's something good and lofty that everybody is just going to join in and help you and send you money to bless you. But you better think again. It'll be the greatest challenge of your life, and the challenge will come so strongly that you will wonder, did God even tell me to do this? And if God told me to do this, why am I having such a hard time? And why is it taking so long? And it seems as though I'm making 2 steps forward and 3 backward. What in the world is going on? Does anybody understand, identify with anything that I'm talking about? You see, we get something, we learn something. I want to be able to draw principles from the Word of God that will empower us to triumph over the devil amid adversity, amid challenge, amid the obstacles that he places in our way. And so that we can use these obstacles as literally as stepping stones. That what the devil put in our path to block us and to stop us actually help to lift us to a higher level. You see, let me say this to you, that I believe that every relationship, every person should have in their corner a friend, because your friends will encourage you when you become discouraged. Your friend will tell you the truth about yourself. They are not infatuated with who you are. So if you're doing something that's wrong, your friends ought to let you know. And let me tell you this, if something is wrong with you, and if your friend is the last one to let you know, you don't have a friend. A best friend is a friend who will bring out the best in you. So you have to always keep friends. Don't do this thing alone. Don't do this alone. God did not design for you to do this alone. There is a reason that when Jesus sent out disciples, he sent them out by twos, Peter and John, Paul and Silas, Paul and Barnabas. He sent them with somebody for a reason. Because it has been proven that you can do more if you've got just one other person with you than if you try to do that thing alone. So you will need a friend. I want to talk about 3 relationships quickly that you'll need. You need a friend. Friend is one relationship that will encourage you. They will help you through various things in your life, and they'll tell you the truth about yourself. You need somebody like that. If you're too full of yourself, your friend ought to let you know it. Now, the second relationship that everybody needs, actually, you need a foe. Now, you might wonder, why in the world do I need a foe? Why do I need an enemy? The reason that you need a foe is because, F-O-E, the reason that you need a foe will actually bring some things out of you that you didn't even know you had in you. They are your enemies that actually expose your strengths. It's sometimes when a person is an enemy and they tell you you can't do that, that something will rise up on the inside of you to say, who said, I'll show you better than I can tell you. Oh, you watch me. Oh, you don't think I can lose the weight? You watch me. Somebody did, and they become your foe. But it's because they said that, and you don't want to let them have the satisfaction of seeing you fail, and your enemy actually promoted you. They actually propelled you. I'm telling you, there are some people that you're going to meet later on down the road that you're going to have to invite to a thank you dinner and thank your enemies around the table. You're going to have to thank them and say, you know what, I thank you for walking out on me years ago. Thank you for leaving me, because I wouldn't have become the person that I am today. I wouldn't have had the strength that I have today had you not walked out of my life. You're going to have to thank your enemies, because your enemies can provoke you for a blessing. But you have to have a friend. You'll have to have a foe. And the third kind of category that you need, a friend, a foe, and a father. A father or a mother. You need somebody in your house to be able to speak life into you. Somebody who has the voice of authority to be able to correct you when you get off track. Somebody who has the authority to rebuke you. Because if you can't be rebuked by anybody, it means that your life is not submitted. And so when I talk about that parental relationship, I simply mean somebody who has the authority to be able to speak correction in your life. So you have to have a friend, you need a foe, but you need a father. You need a disciplinary voice in your life to be able to bring correction and affirmation to you, to affirm who you are so that you don't have to try to get the affirmation of your identity from some crazy person. You need somebody who knows you and somebody who loves you, somebody who has the ability to look beyond your faults and see your potential. And it becomes an incredible, incredible blessing. And so this is why you have to even thank God for your enemies. Maybe had these enemies not tried to come against Nehemiah and all of the men that were trying to rebuild this wall, maybe they wouldn't have gotten it done as rapidly as they did. They finished this work in a record 52 days. And so maybe they wouldn't have done it had they not felt the pressure of an enemy breathing down their back. And so they did the impossible in record time because of an enemy. An enemy pushed them. But here, when you're dealing with overcoming these challenges, here, I want to offer these to you. The number one, you pray. You notice how they actually prayed to God. They actually prayed to God. Notice verse 9. Nevertheless, we made our prayer to our God, and because of them, we set a watch against them day and night. They prayed. They prayed. Now, they were not stupid. They didn't just pray alone. Notice, they set a guard to watch. You know the old folks used to say, watch and pray? Watch as well as pray. They prayed, but then they also watched. Now, to watch means to be wary, to be aware of your surroundings, to be informed, to be informed. In fact, if you are not informed, you don't even know how to pray properly because you don't know what you're dealing with. And the better the information is, let me tell you this, the better your information, the more specific and power and intensity and passion you can have in your prayer. Notice he said in verse 14, and I looked and arose to the nobles and to the leaders and to the rest of the people and said, do not be afraid of them. Do not be afraid of them. Do not be afraid of them. Do not be afraid. You can have enemies, but don't be afraid of them. When you fear the Lord, you don't have to fear man. Do not be afraid of them. Do not be afraid of them. Do not be afraid. Because fear paralyzes you. When you get in fear, you can't even think straight. And so he told them, don't be afraid. But he armed them. He armed them. He armed them. And then notice what he said as well in verse 14, principle number 4. Remember the Lord. Remember the Lord. Remember the Lord. See, he's telling them don't be afraid. And then he says remember the Lord. But you know why? Because he knew that God had a track record. He knew God had a track record for delivering his people. So remember the Lord. You remember the Lord. Remember the Lord. Because God's got a track record. Just remember how he delivered you out of some other close calls. When you got to a place and a point in your life when you didn't know what you were going to do and how you were going to make it, just remember the Lord. Remember the Lord. This is the best antidote to discouragement, is to remember God's promises, remember his benefits, remember his faithfulness, remember his blessings, remember God's provision, how God made a way out of no way. You will look back at the stuff that you were going through and the amount of money that you were making, and you don't even realize how I made it. How did I do this? How did I put my children through school? How did I even do what I was able to do? How did we make it? And you look back at the cost of stuff. It cost you just as much for a loaf of bread as it did everybody else. And you look back and wonder, how in the world did I make it back in those days with such scarcity? You remember the Lord that brought you through that, and the same God that brought you through that will bring you through this. So he says, don't be afraid. You just remember the Lord. Remember the Lord. Remember the Lord. And then the fifth key that I believe that he gave us here is to fight for someone else. You fight for someone else. It's not merely about a selfish thing trying to defend yourself. Fight for someone else. Fight for someone else. Notice he said, fight for your brethren, for your sons, for your daughters, for your wives, and for your houses. Don't do it for yourself. Do it for somebody else. Do it for somebody else. Every time that Jesus remarked that somebody had great faith, it's because they were coming to him, believing him not for themselves, they were believing for someone else. He said, my daughter is grievously vexed with the devil. And Jesus was impressed with them. Another one came, a nobleman came for his servant. He wasn't even coming for himself. It wasn't even for his son. He was just coming for a servant. And Jesus said, I have not seen such great faith, because this man says, listen, speak the word only and my servant will be healed. You don't even have to come to my house. Send the word only. But it wasn't a selfish thing. He was believing God in desperation for somebody else. And when you have unselfish faith to where you will believe God for somebody else, I'm telling you, God will move on your behalf, because it's not a selfish request. If you need him, listen, when you sow a seed into somebody else, don't ever think that God is going to leave you uncovered. You are sowing seeds in the lives of others, but you will reap them in your own life. Your children will reap the benefits of the blessings that you sow to other people. Don't you ever think. That's why the Bible says, I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. God will take care of your children and your grandchildren. You just keep on doing what you know to do. You might be struggling, but you are sowing to your future. You are sowing to your grandchildren. You are sowing to your great-grandchildren. You are sowing to another generation. It's about your legacy. Legacy is nothing about your past. Legacy is about the future. So you fight for somebody else. God was with them because they were not in a selfish battle. They were not in a selfish battle. Whenever you contemplate giving up, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Number one, do you really want to quit, or do you still want to reach the goal? Do you really want to quit, or do you still want to reach the goal? Now let me say this in conjunction with that question. Fatigue makes us all want to quit. So rest before you answer this question. A lot of times, when you get ready to quit, sleep on it, go to bed. Don't make that decision right then. Just sleep on it and see how you feel in the morning. When you get tired, if you make a decision while you're tired, you'll generally make the wrong decision. You just throw in the towel because, if you're already worn out and it's like, well, I've had it. It's so easy to say, you know what, I have had as much as I'm going to take. I can't handle any more of this. Listen, sleep on it. Don't ever rush in your decision making. There's something about rushing that puts you under pressure that makes it difficult to nearly impossible to make the right decision. So rest, because fatigue makes cowards out of most of us. Fatigue will make you want to quit. So if you're just worn out, don't make a major decision when you're tired. But ask yourself, do you really want to quit, or do you still want to fulfill what you were working on? And just ask that question. You have to, in essence, here's what you're doing. You're trying to decide, is this something that is still important to me? Is this something that's still important to me? Is this worth fighting for? Is it worth fighting for? Every time that you get ready to quit, I don't care whether it's quitting on a marriage or quitting on a business or quitting on your job, quitting on a child, ask yourself, does this situation, is this person still important to me? Are they still important to me? Are they still important to me? Question number two. Ask yourself, are you willing to invest the time and energy that it will take to make this goal happen? Are you willing to invest the time and energy that it'll take to make this goal happen? In other words, count the cost. Count the cost. Count the cost. And once you count the cost, and if you're going to do this, you have to then make a new agreement that you're going to sacrifice to see it happen. I have never heard of legitimate success that came without sacrifice. There is no such a thing as success without sacrifice. You will sacrifice sleep. You will sacrifice just peace sometimes, the tranquility of your soul when you're working on some things, because you're going to have adversaries and obstacles to deal with. And so no success comes without sacrifice. So are you willing to invest the time and energy that it'll take in order to make this happen? You have to ask that question. Am I willing to make a new agreement to sacrifice it to see it come? These folks had to work ungodly hours when they were rebuilding that wall, and they had to work with a tool in one hand and a weapon in another. Now they should have said, you know what? I'm a craftsman. I am not a warrior. I know my trade, and now it's awkward now for me to have one of my hands tied up with a weapon, and I've only got a tool in another one. Because whichever hand that you were, then that meant, and I'm assuming that they had their tool in their dominant hand and their weapon in the passive hand. And so I would have been afraid to be around somebody that had a weapon in the hand that they're not used to using, because they don't know how to aim with that thing too well, But they were going to be working their craft with their dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, you're going to have your tool in your right hand. And so it took tremendous sacrifice for them to do what they did, but they did it. Here's the third question. Are you willing to recognize that obstacles are nothing more than natural checkpoints that you have to pass in order to reach your goal? Are you willing to recognize that obstacles are nothing more than natural checkpoints that you have to pass in order to reach your goal. That's all an obstacle is. An obstacle is nothing more than a natural checkpoint that you have to pass in order to reach your goal. It is your way of finding out whether you are really hungry for it or not. Because God's going to put so many obstacles on the course that you've got to really be hungry for it, not to be turned back. You see, obstacles are normal to success. They're normal to life. Everybody has to deal with obstacles at some point or another. Here's question number 4. If you really want to reach the goal, are you willing to believe once again that you can do it? This is when you're discouraged. You're going through a point where you're just about to quit. You have to ask yourself, if you really want to reach the goal, are you willing to believe once again that you can do it? Ask yourself that question. Am I willing to believe once again that I can do it? And the word believe, I've taught you in Scripture, the word believe literally means to commit to. It's not just an emotion in the heart. When you say I believe, it means I commit to. I commit to you. See, you don't have any business committing yourself to somebody that you don't believe in. I see too many people make that mistake when they marry. They commit themselves to people that they cannot believe in. To believe means to commit to. And so you don't commit to whatever you cannot believe in. But if you believe in it, you commit yourself to it. And so the simple principle here is that you make the choice to believe again. You make the choice to believe again. Are you willing to believe once again that you can do it? Here's number 5, question number 5 that you should ask. Are you willing to restate the goal and restate your absolute determination to reach it? Are you willing to restate the goal and restate your determination to reach it? Just restate your personal determination to reach the goal. Just restate it. Say, I'm going to do it. I can do this. You have to restate it. You have to confess it. Jesus said, you shall have what you say. Because, here's the principle, you are only committed to what you confess. You are only committed to what you confess. Have you ever had a person that tell you, I didn't tell you I was going to do that? Now see, that right, I didn't say I was going to do that. See, the principle is you are only committed to what you confess. You're only committed to what you confess. You're only committed. So you have to confess or restate your personal determination to reach the goal. Here's question number 6. Are you willing to find a partner to encourage you and to keep you accountable? Are you willing to find a partner to encourage you and to keep you accountable? Are you willing to do that? To find somebody. I mean, if you really believe that you can do something, tell somebody else about it. Because then it puts you under pressure. I mean, just tell all your relatives at the family reunion. Because there will come a day of accountability. You see, you're afraid to face these people again. But see, that puts you under pressure. You see, when you find an accountability person, it'll sort of drive you on, because if you're going to really do something, you take somebody that you respect and use them as an accountability person. Because if you find somebody that you respect and use them as an accountability person, you would rather let yourself down than to let them down. You let them down. I had a young man that came to see me today, and I'm an accountability partner for him. And he told me that he was going to do a certain thing several months ago. And today was the day of reckoning. That he had an appointment with me to bring me the finished product. And guess what? He showed up with the finished product. And you know, one thing that drove him is because he didn't want to let me down. He had already let himself down, but he didn't want to let me down. And that's the power that you tap into when you find an accountability person who can help to keep you accountable to the things that you want to achieve yourself. Because they'll stop you and say, where are you? You at the mall, oh, and you're supposed to be finished with this when? You need an accountability person sometimes that will help you to do what you already want to do. It's not anybody to hound you, to hassle you. It's somebody to encourage you. Somebody to encourage you because they believe in you and they want you to do and accomplish what you feel in your own heart that you can do. So get an accountability partner. Number 7, ask yourself this question. Whenever you're tempted to quit, are you willing to stay connected to God and feed yourself with inspiration to fuel your belief? Are you willing to stay connected to God and feed yourself with inspiration to fuel your belief?
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Until next time, God bless you.